The blaze begins just before 5 o'clock. The flames quickly spread through the engine parts warehouse and smoke spreading through the entire neighborhood, all as firefighters struggle to control the fire.
They're just doing such a great job fighting this fire, and it seems like it's been kind of hard to get under control.
Top priority, protecting nearby homes. Denise Hedrick owns the home next to the warehouse.
I grabbed my dog and I grabbed my cat and I couldn't find the other one, but I had to go ahead and leave the house.
After 3 hours and plenty of manpower,
we deployed most of the resources in the city of Huntington Fire Department.
The firefighters finally had the flames under control. They also earned a new respect from the dozens of onlookers who gathered nearby.
But my granddaughter was just telling me, she's here with me, and she was just telling me, I think now I've changed my mind, Nanny. I want to be a firefighter.
And for those waiting for the flames to die down, a prayer that something will be salvageable.
I know God will take care of everything. He'll take care of it.
Job openings around here? Absolutely. Secretary of Commerce Don Evans getting a little hands-on experience.
We were able to actually have him help assemble an engine.
Evans is in the state to tour the Toyota plant in Putnam County.
That means number 24's got a problem.
Checking out the facility and speaking with some of the workers.
I talked to them about the tax relief that they've received over the last 3 years, and they were of course pleased with.
Evans says tax cuts prove to be a popular topic with the average worker.
They like their taxes lower as opposed to higher.
Evans also spoke with local business leaders, all part of a town hall meeting, addressing issues like tort reform, small business tax relief, and an energy policy and what the feds can do to help out.
I mean, I've never seen the economy this powerful in my lifetime.
Despite the upbeat message, some say there's room for improvement, including better, higher-paying jobs for West Virginians.
You know, we need to get everybody who wants a job employed and employed in a job that can support their family.
Something the Secretary will keep in mind as he heads back to our nation's capital.
We want to continue to come back here and visit with the leaders of this state and the workers of this state to see what we can do to make sure we're improving the conditions for a growing economy.
They're scooping up the mud that's now scarily close to the Robertsons' house. This is what the hill by their home looked like on December 18th. Just 8 days later, it had turned into this. Here's the before, and again the after.
I have 2 small children in this house, and we have had people tell us that it's unsafe for us to stay there at night.
Danger for one and inconvenience for another. The gaps in the road forced the neighbors to find a detour.
I didn't used to have to walk up and down the hill. I used to drive up there to my house.
The residents say they're going through a muddy mess, and this is not their fault.
This is not our problem. This is a city street, as far as I'm concerned, all the way up to that private drive right there.
The street is owned by the city, but the mayor says it's not his problem. He says there's private property up the hill that's causing this fiasco. But residents say this is all caused from mistakes the city made years ago.
It could be a number of water leaks. It could be because the ditches was not cleaned out, the drainage was stopped up.
If there had been good drainage and the city had taken care of the right-of-way and that the water company had taken care of their pipes, I don't think this would have happened.
When you lace the skates up, you get your mind set.
Practice time is serious time, and Andrea Zimmerman is ready to lace them up. It's been 10 years since she first rolled onto the rink. Since then, it's been nothing but satisfaction. The Barbersville native has a house full of accolades from passing amateur skating's toughest test. Andrea is cutting through the same United States Figure Skating Association trials seen by the sport's greatest stars.
I go out with attitude. I want to do my best, and if my best isn't good enough, then I can't help that. As long as I do my best, then I'm happy.
Her best is more than good enough thus far. Andrea is West Virginia's first skater to ride her blades with this kind of brilliance, but the dream of skating for Olympic gold remains the biggest thrill of all.
It takes your breath away and gives you cold chills every time you think of it.
Her ability is out there. I mean, she can really turn it on. 12 years old, she passed her gold moves. 15, she passes her gold free skate. That is the top.
I'm the first in West Virginia to accomplish getting 2 gold medals, and I'd like to be able to put this place on the map.
Turning those beautiful moves hasn't been without its setbacks, though. Andrea isn't quite 16 years old, and she's already suffered serious injuries to her lower back and her ankle. If she expects to make the Olympic team in 2006, it will mean 2 years of seriously hard work.
You have to come out, do 1,000,001 of each jump every day, every spin, do your program 50 times a day. You have to eat right, you have to exercise. It's a whole life. If you put your mind to anything, you can do it, and I know I could do it.
The hard work will be worth it if Andrea's ideas on ice turn to gold. In Huntington, I'm Sean McDowell reporting.
When Susan Kreitz buried her 9-year-old daughter Angie nearly 7 years ago, she was understandably in a state of disbelief.
You're in shock. I mean, my 9-year-old daughter just died. I couldn't even tell you half of what happened.
Susan turned to Highlawn Memorial Gardens to lay her daughter to rest, and while she knew she wouldn't be able to get the graveside service she wanted, she says that was minor compared to what she would soon have to deal with.
The next day I came back to visit. There was a wagon of dirt on top of my daughter's grave. And I went over there and asked him, and he said, "You'll have to leave. We have a funeral. We had nowhere else to put the dirt, and there's nothing for you to look at. You need to get off the property."
And she says the problems didn't stop there. When her daughter's headstone arrived and was put in, the date of her death was wrong.
He said it was my fault. I signed the contract. Well, my feelings are, you're in a profession where you're dealing with families that are going through tragedy and heartache. This is the last place they want to come. You seem more than nice at the time, sign a blank contract. I feel like he's taking advantage of people.
Funeral home directors here in the area have agreed they receive numerous complaints on this cemetery each year. Complaints such as no graveside services, flowers at gravesites thrown away, funeral processions stopped at the mausoleum, and visitors even run off the property.
All we want to do was go to the gravesite, have prayer, and then leave.
It's hard enough when you lose a loved one, but then when you come down here and you have to go through this, it's wrong.
Many families say when their loved ones purchased the plots, the owner at the time was more than accommodating to their wants and needs. But since the owner died and his son took over in 1997, that's when family members say things changed and past promises were not honored.
I've got grave sites in here, but I'll never use them, and I'll not sell them back to him. They will lay there for eternity, I guess.
In Lawrence County, Deanne Stein reporting.
You can't buy them, have them, or launch them in Little Rock or North Little Rock, and extra officers will be on patrol to enforce those laws.
We'll have officers on the street through the holiday to make sure that we have as few fireworks violations as possible.
Both cities say there is no big crackdown this year.
We are just doing the same thing that we do every year. We assign a couple extra officers to work on fireworks because we get the complaints.
Police say most of the callers only get nervous when people start shooting bottle rockets near their home.
They're scared that their house is going to catch on fire, their grass is going to catch on fire, and then also the danger involved with fireworks. We respond every year to calls where somebody shot another person with a bottle rocket or a rocket's going off in somebody's hand.
Police in Little Rock and North Little Rock say the laws have been in place long enough. People should already know these are not allowed.
Well, this is a law that's been in effect a long time here in Little Rock. You've never been able to shoot fireworks here in the city limits for the last 25 years.
That's why police say instead of gambling on getting a citation, skip the neighborhood display and head to a public one instead. In Little Rock, Katie Nielsen, KARK 4 News.
Welcome to the blogosphere, a world of diaries on the internet that can tell you who danced with whom last weekend in Little Rock, or even what's happening in the local media.
The great thing about the blog is it's instant.
Max Brantley helps operate the Arkansas Times blog. It's quickly becoming a daily fix for thousands of readers. Brantley posts stories related to Arkansas, Sometimes they're opinion pieces, or
if I see something about a good poor boy sandwich in New Orleans, I might put it on there just because I like poor boy sandwiches.
But the comments might not be as tasteful. Readers get the chance to sound off anonymously.
We try and edit remarks that go beyond a certain point.
Blogs are also now becoming political tools.
It influences campaign decisions. It helps other candidates react quickly to what one candidate is saying.
Arkansas Democrats and Republicans have their own blog sites.
Before we had grassroots, they call it the net roots, that this is another way for people to be active in the political process.
Allows people to see different sides of stories and maybe dig deeper.
But blogs can be damaging and an instrument of spin. Political pundits say that Tom Daschle lost his Senate re-election bid in South Dakota because Republicans hired full-time bloggers to dig up information on him.
Don't necessarily believe everything you read.
The blogosphere, while it's still in its infancy, there's no telling where it will go or who it will be talking about next. In Little Rock, Melissa Seamus, KARK 4 News.
White County Sheriff's officials locate the 2005 Chevy Cavalier belonging to 45-year-old Deborah Cornett. The vehicle was pulled from Lake Barnett in Floyd, just 20 miles north of her McRae home. Sheriff Ricky Sheward says no sign of Cornett inside the vehicle. Crews continue the search in the icy cold waters.
And what we done, we launched our boat this morning, and while the deputies were out in the boat, they seen the antenna of the vehicle sticking up out of the water.
Cornett went missing Sunday night around 10 o'clock when she left a note for her daughter saying she was headed to a friend's house in Floyd. A community of volunteers called Citizens on Patrol joined law enforcement in the search. They combed gravel roads, ditches, swollen creeks and rivers, all the while being saddled up on horses, in ATVs and on foot before the shocking discovery. Worried family members are still clinging on to hope.
If the world could come together like these people have done to help look for this girl, we'd be you couldn't tear this unit apart, because these people, it's cold. They've been out here, I don't know how many hours now, endless. It hasn't stopped.
We can't rule out any foul play, but right now we're looking at it as an accident, and we're going to work it that way until we know different.
After the tragedy in Lexington, some say change is in the air for air traffic controllers. Here in Little Rock, 2 controllers will now be required to work simultaneously on the overnight 8-hour shift instead of rotating like they used to.
Well, you would average anywhere from 25 to a 30-minute break, come back and get the other guy, then he would take a break, then come back, just a rotation like that.
But on the new shift, controllers will only be able to take 2 5-minute breaks in no meal break. That's according to air traffic controller James Keith, who says break time is the key to managing the stress of the skyways, where so many lives are at stake.
It gives an unsafe situation because you just need time away from the position in order to stay fresh.
But some say this change has been waiting in the wings for a while now. This summer, the FAA imposed a new contract on the National Air Traffic Controllers Association.
When they did that, they removed a key article in there that said controllers could not work more than 2 hours on position.
Many controllers call it an outrage.
The managers have the authority to work you for as long as they want to work with no break.
We spoke to an FAA spokesperson by phone who defended the contract.
That it is fair and to the point to the employees and does give room for feedback.
While air traffic controllers are no longer guaranteed breaks after 2 hours, Herwig says the contract has provisions that allow some flexibility.
We are an open management as far as air traffic is concerned, and we pay attention to what they say.
On this property is where 3 homes stood, and we're told some of the debris here right now is actually from a mobile home from a nearby field. Only one person was here when the storm hit last night. She was found alive, but very bruised, about 200 yards away. Emmanuel Mars and his family pick up what's left of the place he's called home since 1982. He was working last night when the storm hit and spent 2.5 hours not knowing if his wife had survived.
She heard on the scanner that, a tornado watch, or tornado was on the ground, and she went and got in the bathtub.
She said she looked up in the sky, and she said, my God, and then she tried to get up and she stumbled.
2 of my grandkids just had left and went home. Just minutes early. I believe if they had been still here, they would have been killed. My wife being able to survive this is not a miracle. It's a blessing from God.
And almost everyone in this rural part of Cross County has a story of a close call.
I was cooking supper and came outside and saw the cloud in the sky, and my son was coming in on the four-wheeler, and we just turned everything off and left.
We made it as far as Phillips 66 station, and we went in and they told us to get in the freezer. So we went and stayed in the freezer a while.
70-plus homes either damaged or destroyed, and in a place where farming puts food on the table, 25 farm shops and storage areas are gone. On this property off Highway 284, tractors and combines are toppled and twisted. It's easy to forget what went where.
My car is in that third tree over yonder.
Now family and friends help salvage pictures and things insurance policies don't cover. Residents say it took over 2 hours to get back to their homes last night. It may take thousands more to get past the fact there was nothing to come home to.
Oh, I just bawled. I just knew everything was gone.
You both have a smile on your faces today. Why?
We're safe. No lives were lost. Nobody's hurt. We just got, this can be replaced.
The Arkansas Department of Emergency Management says FEMA will be out here tomorrow to see if this area can qualify for federal assistance. In Cross County, Cecily Pond-Mayo, KARK 4 News.
The town of Whitehall is a quiet, peaceful community. About 5,000 people call it home. Like any tight-knit town, the high school is a focal point. Police cars even show Bulldog pride. But word of drugs in the school is nothing the community is proud of.
We started getting complaints outside the school that possibly this may be going on. You have to try to come up with some innovative ideas to try to infiltrate to find out.
That's when it was back to school for the Whitehall Police Department, asking the school district to enroll an undercover officer.
There may be problems, severe problems with drugs, and we wanted to attack it as soon as possible.
Undercover for 3 weeks in January, the officer became a Whitehall student.
She was actually dressed like a student and was attending classes like a student.
Parents agree with the addition to the Whitehall student body.
I don't have a problem with it at all. If they're not doing anything they shouldn't be doing, they shouldn't be worrying about it.
Students even admit it might help keep drugs out of the school.
I was glad they did, just because of the fact that, we shouldn't be doing that anyways.
Police put the officer in the school to see if drugs were tarnishing Bulldog pride. The rumors weren't true.
No one has been arrested as of yet, and the officer was unable to buy any drugs on campus.
As HealthNet races to pick up a patient, the trauma room at CAMC General is already busy this month from the increase in accidents involving children.
We've had some children already that have been hit by cars, darting into the street, chasing a ball, chasing a friend.
Tammy Curry is the charge nurse for the trauma department at CAMC General, and she says they're already busy with children who've started their summers with a trip to the hospital.
Lots of bicycle accidents. Some of them have been hit by cars. Some of them are hitting parked cars or hitting walls, things like that.
And with the summer heat also comes some summer fun at some of the local area skate parks where teenagers will spend much of their day jumping ramps. The Break in the Rain has a number of area kids enjoying half pipes and rails. But accidents seem to go hand in hand with fun like this.
Let them skate all day and get worn out.
Rob Roush has 3 kids skating around having fun, and he says he understands the importance of making his kids wear a helmet.
Sometimes they don't want to, but they do it anyhow because they know they won't be able to skate unless they have them on.
The summer sun is also luring people out to area pools, but too much of what you might think is a good thing also sends children to the ER every year. Jason Smith is the manager at the Coonskin Park Pool, and he says his lifeguards are on duty for both swimmers and sunbathers.
We think people's getting sunburned too bad. Try to mention it to them. We offer them sunscreen.
Good evening there, Ben. Every year during the month of October, firefighters from around the state head to the classrooms to make sure kids know just how important fire safety is. And it doesn't take too long to make sure your home is also safe.
Hopefully we'll save a life, and it'll stick with them throughout their life.
Fire Prevention Week is what you could call a refresher course for some. Tips to keep you and your family safe. Firefighters take pride in teaching the simple ways to save lives.
We try to make sure that they're aware of the dangers, the safety procedures to get out of the house and stay out, not to go back in for a puppy, or and to also know what to do with if their clothes would catch on fire, stop, drop, and roll.
Another tip, not only is it a good idea to have smoke detectors on all levels of the home, but making sure they work properly is the difference between getting out safe or not at all.
To keep the batteries changed twice a year. Good thing to remember that is to change the batteries when the time change hits in the spring and fall.
Fire Prevention Week comes around each year. Firefighters say a sense of gratification comes with knowing the students remember the lessons from years before.
You go back to that school and they can tell you the following year that they had an accident at their house where that involved a fire and they were able to get out alive, and just, you know, it's very rewarding to know that.
The 4th annual Big Woods Birding Festival caused quite a commotion in Clarendon.
He is a Eurasian eagle owl.
Birds of prey were the main attraction.
The kestrel is a falcon. She's the second smallest falcon in the world.
A bald eagle named Lynn was certainly a highlight.
Her personality is somewhere between spoiled and special.
I thought they weren't that big, but now that I saw it, I think it's pretty big.
The birds were a bit outspoken, but the most elusive bird of the day was the ivory-billed woodpecker. Though we couldn't spot it, it has put the big woods on the map.
Business has been great. Notoriety has been great.
The woodpecker's rediscovery has created a frenzy for T-shirts, photographs, and even haircuts. Beauty shop owner Penny Childs hopes to capitalize.
We've done about 10 this morning.
Jean Sperling was the first to catch sight of the woodpecker and encourages continuous conservation efforts.
People get on airplanes and fly to exotic locations all over the world to go bird, kayak, canoe in areas that are not half as neat as the big woods of Arkansas.
Organizers are hoping Woodpecker Mania will bring in more birdwatchers to the area and promote even more business.
For $6, you could get your picture taken with the ivory-billed woodpecker. In Clarendon, Dory Paces, KARK 4 News.
40-year-old Andrew Sticks Morton is part of a growing chain game known as disc golf.
It's an instant gratification sport. You do your form just right, you throw that disc just right, and you get to watch it fly, long, smooth.
You basically play it just like golf.
You have your drivers, your mid-ranges, your putters. And see how this is nice and sharp? This is a driver. It's going to go the farthest. Oh, yeah, that's a nice shot. Now, our mid-ranges are going to have like a shorter lip to it and be more rounded, and those are more for a gliding, more accuracy. That is tree love right there. This is my putter. It's a little heavier. It's a floater. It's got my thumb grips on it.
And just like golf, you drive for show and putt for dough.
The younger guys, they might have the big arms and get more distance, but in the end, it's accuracy.
And it's not just boys' fun. Disc golf's girl and kid friendly.
4.
Now, I'm living proof not everyone's a natural. But with a little practice, even I show signs of promise. Oh well, there's always the back nine. Back to the rules of disc golf. There are no gimmies. The car path is playable, and
everything is par 3, whether it's a 200-foot hole or a 600-foot hole.
And speaking of holes, Burns Park Disc Golf Course offers up 36 where everyone's welcome. Whether you clank it, shank it, or flat out spank it. There's nothing like a game of catch between a boy and his dad and granddad.
I'd just like to get out and play ball.
That's 64-year-old Robert Sr. on the mound, Robert Jr. on third, and Justin in the outfield. They all share a love for the game, as well as the same last name. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for the Bates boys. 3 generations swinging on the same diamond.
We got a real athletic family.
In my younger years, that was always my coach.
You see Dad mess up, his dad gets on him, I mess up, my dad gets on me.
I never did like that losing deal, so we play to win.
Like father, like son.
Everybody in the family's out there to win.
Like grandson.
We're all very competitive.
Who's the best athlete out of the three?
Well, you're looking at it. There's no doubt about that.
Hey, you're up, baby. Come on. But even though he's nearing the sunset of his life, Robert Sr. shows no signs of slowing down.
He'd be sitting on that couch and watching TV.
Well, he does great out there. He can place the ball wherever he needs to place it.
He's gone through 2 shoulder surgeries and he's still out here.
I think my brain and my body don't see eye to eye, you know. My brain wants to, but my body's about to stop.
I know I get up every now and then with a sore knee or something like that, and I think about Dad, and I'm going, I hope he hurts as much as I do. If not, I'm going to be in bad shape when I'm his age.
But despite any aches and pains, the Bates boys keep on swinging. And on this night, they don't disappoint, giving the hometown crowd a reason to cheer.
Usual routine, went downstairs to warm it up.
But for Gaston Flowers, warming up his SUV before heading to work cost him a heap of trouble.
I even made it fully in the house here when my girl was like, somebody stealing your truck. I looked out the blinds and my truck was gone.
Police say a 16-year-old boy ripped off Flowers' Ford Explorer from this apartment complex at Rodney Parham in Mississippi. Flowers actually jumped into his girlfriend's car to follow the suspect. A short time later, a police chase ensued. The suspect had 2 crashes while on the wild ride, and it all came to an end here, just blocks away at 12th and Cleveland, when he crashed into this utility pole.
The suspect vehicle struck another vehicle on Rodney Parham in front of a couple of state troopers who observed the accident, and they engaged pursuit and pursued him up here to 12th and Cleveland, where he lost control and struck this phone pole.
Entergy, Arkansas ups, and the Little Rock Fire Department also reported to the scene. Live wires had to be cut off and the leaning pole secured before removing the vehicle.
It's my only means of transport. You know what I'm saying? It was paid for.
And while the crime is common in this cold snap, police are warning car owners it's against the law to leave your vehicle running unattended, and you could be ticketed and fined. What do you advise people to do?
Bundle up and sit in their vehicle and warm it up.
I used to sit in it when I first started doing it. I sat in it, but after a while it just became so comfortable.
Legislators have been receiving hundreds of emails and some say unpleasant phone calls.
I was told this morning on the telephone that I'm being used as a tool for the devil.
The issue?
It is so controversial, yet so beautifully simple.
The Equal Rights Amendment. It states equality under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the U.S. or by any state on account of sex. It was passed in Congress in 1972, and since then advocates have been marching in Washington because it has never become part of the Constitution. ERA needed support from 38 states. It now has only 35. Representative Lindsley Smith's effort to make Arkansas number 36 is gaining national attention. Flying in today from St. Louis to speak at the hearing.
The main reason it was rescinded and rejected was that it's a fraud. It pretends to help women.
Phyllis Schlafly, president of conservative group Eagle Forum. She led the opposition efforts in the 1970s.
If you didn't hear about one single law, federal or state, that discriminates against women, that this amendment will remedy. I note that you didn't hear a single benefit that women will get out of the Equal Rights Amendment.
The committee did hear testimony from women who say they've been victims of discrimination.
It means that 52% of the humanity of this country, because women are 52%, it means 52% of the humanity of this country basically has to come to this committee made up mostly of men to ask you to recognize us.
And they heard from former Senator and Governor David Pryor. He voted for ERA as a representative in the House in 1971 and pushed to have Arkansas adopted as governor.
Mr. Chairman, we didn't do it, and I have regretted it since that day.
The vote came down 10-10.
Motion fails 10-10.
It needed 11 votes to make it to the House floor.
Trainer Willie Joe Settles will tell you that light heavyweight Ray Smith Jr. is the real deal.
He's our future champion.
Smith just turned pro. During his first 2 fights, he scored 2 first-round knockouts.
If you want to win the fight, you need to hit and not be hit.
And that's Ray's specialty. He's got that rare blend of speed and power. But what is most important is his passion.
My mom's been buying me boxing gloves ever since I was about 6 years old for Christmas every year.
2 years ago, Ray walked into the ABC boxing gym as an amateur. For the past 4 weeks, he's worked as Jermaine Taylor's sparring partner. And his trainers say a title shot could only be 2 to 3 years away.
As he's been fighting, I've been watching him, and he's tremendous, getting better and better each time.
Not unlike Jermaine, who traded his first punches inside this gym. Now, everywhere you look, you see his name, the heralded middleweight champion of the world. But for Ray, he's more like a brother.
When you see him coming from the small town, Little Rock, Arkansas, and I'm from the same small town, and once you see him do it, you know it's possible.
After squaring off with Jermaine for the past month as his sparring partner, Ray knows that Jermaine is not only blessed with speed.
He's strong, too, for a middleweight, you know. You wouldn't think a middleweight be that strong, but he's real strong.
There's no question that Jermaine has opened doors for Ray, and he promises that when his time comes, he'll come out swinging.
Once the tunes are cranking, the work begins. Some call him the junk man, but Mike Iwashenko is becoming better known as an artist.
Like that, I can take anything and make a fish. I can make 6 or 8 fish out of this little cabinet.
Another man's trash becomes this man's treasure.
This was an air handler one of my neighbors left in the driveway. 11 fish out of that air handler.
Whenever or wherever Mike looks around the world, he says he sees a fish waiting to be created.
Well, I'm going out to dinner or something. My wife's like, what are you looking at? I said, look at that dumpster. Look at that piece of metal hanging out of there. She's like, we can't stop. I said, I'll put that in the truck. That'll pay for dinner. You know?
Rusty filing cabinets, outdated washers and dryers, even old satellite dishes. Whatever it is, if it's metal, it becomes fish. It's a passion that began about 5 years ago with a peace sign he made out of scrap metal. After one sale quickly became 10, this self-described frustrated fisherman formed his first fish out of the triangular cutouts from the peace sign. And the rest is history.
I get one there, and then sometimes out of the side of the filing cabinets I can make like eels. And then out of the front I can do other fish.
Although his techniques have changed, the inspiration remains the same for what is now coined peace fish.
For the earth, we need it, you know. Gonna run out of stuff eventually if we don't start recycling it, you know.
And it's no surprise this peace-loving, earth-conscious junk man leaves his special mark on all his catches.
I'm happy making these. I enjoy doing it. And it's like, and that's, people come up, they're smiling. I go, yeah, they're smiling.
Now, peace fish like these weren't always Mike's only passion. He used to create concrete sculptures like these, which he sells at markets as well. With an extra on special assignment in Pinellas County, Carol Min, Bay News 9.
This Bradenton granny is gearing up for the ride of her life. 72-year-old Gretchen Platt says since November she's been training daily, preparing physically and mentally for a 125-mile bike ride from Brooksville and Citrus County all the way to Bradenton and Manatee County.
I'm in the best health and physical condition I've been in 15 years.
But with a little more than 1 week to go before the big ride, Platt says she's got her work cut out for her. You see, she's not a professional cyclist and has little experience. However, don't let this fool you. This granny says she's ready to put the pedal to the metal. Platt, who's a physical therapist and a deacon at a local Episcopal church, says she got the idea to participate in the journey after hearing about it on a local Christian radio station. She says when she heard all the money raised would go to help the homeless, she knew it was her calling to join in.
My position is to serve, and my ministry involves the less fortunate, the downtrodden, the sick, and the shut-ins, and that's what I have dedicated my life to do.
Platt says she's hoping to raise $5,000 for the ride, money she plans on donating to the homeless in Manatee County. A donation Adele Rozier, the executive director for the Community Coalition on Homelessness, says is greatly needed.
This money will be put to good use, and there's plenty of people right now who need it.
Rozier says since last year, the number of homeless people using their facility in Bradenton has increased by 40,000. She says this extra money will help dozens of families eat, have shelter, and hopefully get back on their feet. Motivation, Platt says, keeps her on her bike, pedaling for this difficult but meaningful long trek ahead of her.
Oh, you can do anything you put your mind to.
With an extra on special assignment, Summer Smith, Bay News 9.
It has stood high above the Central Plaza district for decades, but it has recently become more of a boarded-up eyesore. Fast forward 14 months from now, though, and the newest face in town will be one to envy. Plaza Fifth is officially no more. What was first housing for the elderly, then for low-income families, finally shut down in 2002. Now, selective demolition is underway inside this 12-story landmark building, gutting out every ounce of the old except for the frame to make way for the very new.
You know, it's a concrete structure. It's as solid as you could build, and you can't build it today as cheaply as this building was built when it was built.
While maintaining the very best of the mid-century.
Up the center core of the building, there's a tile that's really unique and was done back in the 60s and commissioned, from what I understand, by a famous tile manufacturer.
The modern version will be called Skyline Fifth, contemporary high-rise living without the high-rise price or the challenges.
There are plenty of visitor parking. You got plenty of resident parking. You know, you get into a downtown area, sometimes your parking garages, on-street parking.
Now, the 11th floor units are 2-story apartments, and if you look this way, you get the skyline of downtown St. Petersburg, and on a clear day, you even get the skyline of downtown Tampa. And further to the south, you get the Skyway Bridge, and a little further north and to the west, the Don Cesar.
The elevators only go to the 11th floor, but there's 12 floors. The 12th floor used to be the floor where all the mechanical air conditioning units all were stored.
The $14 million project is just getting started. And you can see there's still much work to be done. But just as the shopping district for the city became just a memory, so will the building that once was. The new Skyline Fifth is expected to be complete by next spring with 178 units ranging from 700 to 1,500 square foot each. In addition to the pool, other amenities will include a fitness center as well as a business center. With an extra on special assignment in St. Petersburg, Carol Min, Bay News 9.
Every Sunday night, people gather here outside of Moon Lake Christian Fellowship Church, and under the lights, they pray. But this Sunday, they won't be able to do that because someone stole the wiring and cut out the lights. Empty outlets, pieces of electrical wiring.
Used to plug in.
Even when Pastor Lad Dubovsky tells the story, he has a hard time believing it.
The first reaction is, how could someone or anybody do that to a church family?
He says someone stole hundreds of dollars worth of equipment from his unfinished church, including the wiring that kept this refrigerator running.
Some grapes for you, grapes. Right.
Pastor Ladd stocks the fridge with food to hand out to those who need it. The theft? Well, it almost caused some to go without.
We had about 20 cases of sausages and hot dogs and everything else that was going to spoil. So we had to make an extra effort to go out and to spread the food.
The pastor says he knows times are tough, and stealing copper wiring has become common for those trying to get some extra money for scrap metal. But church members believe there had to be another way.
If these people would have asked, he would have, gave them something if they needed something. And, I just hope that some good will happen out of this, and maybe some generosity to come towards the church.
What happened was indeed a setback for this church and a congregation that started building this place almost 2 years ago. But the pastor says despite everything, he hopes to have this church complete by November of this year. I'm on scene in Pasco County, Dahlia Dangerfield, Bay News 9. Neighbors are getting 5 more years of this. Blocked streets, loud engines.
it's like your alarm clock in the morning, basically. It's what gets you up in the morning, the sound of the motors and everything. So it's kind of exciting, kind of annoying, but.
So annoying that some residents who live nearby choose to leave the downtown area when this is in their front yard. Now news of another 5 years is making some a little angry. In an email to Bay News 9, one neighbor who didn't want to appear on camera said she's frustrated that officials set up the Grand Prix in this residential area and turns up her stereo to drown out the noise.
Lots of people leave. A lot of people don't like the noise, but you know what? You just got to make the best of it.
Barbara Thomas, on the other hand, hosts parties when the Grand Prix speeds into town. And she's excited about 5 more years of racing. But Thomas lives so close to the action, she admits she has to send her pet away because the dog can't take the noise.
It's a weekend. It's one weekend out of the year.
But weekend or not, some residents want more of a say on where this race takes place. And another 5 years in downtown St. Pete just adds to the frustration.
At about 1:15 Sunday afternoon, a fire broke out inside this apartment building in Tampa. As you can see, 4 units were destroyed by fire and water. A witness said someone was trapped inside, but firefighter Craig Lynn says they've accounted for all of the 18 people who were living in the 4 units.
We believe, based on our primary and secondary searches, that at this time we have not found anybody in there. The people that live there said there's nobody in there.
Marilyn Espejo was at church when the fire broke out. Her unit melted from the fire's heat.
Things like that happen anywhere where you live. You just have to make sure, and thank God there's nobody hurt. So that's the most main thing. You can lose everything, but as long as you don't lose your life.
Wendy Ocasio's car was destroyed by the fire also.
We tried to save my car 4 times, but it just got worse, and we couldn't save it, and it's burned to a crisp. There it is. I just realized the damage.